pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Catherine Solon. Angie Schreiber.
Here.
Dr. Bardo.
Here.
Bobby Braun.
Here.
Jill Maddick Nelson.
Here.
Kristen Matt Miller. Scott Peterson.
Here.
J.D. Schrader.
Here.
Danny Pyatt.
Here. All right, we have a quorum of the board present. We will move on to item 2, citizens and delegations. We'll have letter A, student representatives report.
So our student representatives were not able to be here today, but they did come up with a report last week, so I'll read through that. Students who were on high honors had ice cream sundaes at lunch. Student council voted again for ice cream sundaes, and we served about 100 sundaes at lunch. Gymnastics sectionals are February 28th, and Antigo is hosting. This week, boys and girls hockey regionals are both away, so we'll see what happens and where our teams go from there. February 15th, wrestling regionals happened, and boys swim team regionals happened, so we are excited to see where the teams will go. The boys varsity bowling team made it to state on and state will be on March 2nd. Bethany Lewis signed for softball with UW Superior. She signed on February 11th at the high school, so she's committed to UW Superior for softball for next year. DECA had a Valentine's Day flower sale, and Student Council had a cookie sale. So we had lots of treats in the building for the 13th since we didn't have school on Valentine's Day. On Friday the 21st, the Antigo Skills USA team will be competing at Fox Valley Tech. And this week is FFA week, so there will be dress-up days each day and a short assembly on Friday to celebrate. So if you're interested in knowing the mystery animal for this year, please come join us during Pride time, so 2:27 to 3:15 on Friday. The juniors on the 5th participated in the reality fair. So typically we've done that at Covantage, and this year Covantage came to us in the gym, and they all had different booths that they went around. Several people from central office and different community agencies helped the juniors walk through that. The kids had pretty good reviews. They were skeptical going in, but then afterwards they thought it was a pretty good event and that they learned some things. So, unfortunately, the winter ball was canceled due to low ticket sales. They only sold 11 tickets. However, they have started working on prom, and we've started kind of talking about why winter ball isn't working and if we need to do something else. And then it's CTE month. So February 10th through the 14th was Youth Apprenticeship and Co-op Week, and students and staff have been working to promote the different departments and programs. So now it's FFA week, and really they're just promoting all the CTE things throughout the month. Yeah.
All right, any questions or comments?
What's the grade range for winter ball?
You want to pull your mic up closer.
What's the grade range for winter ball?
10th through 12th graders. If you're a 9th grader and you get invited, you can go. I guess that's the way it's always been done, and I didn't go there yet this year.
Did it happen last year?
Sounds like it hasn't happened for the last 3 years. So I don't know if it's just they're not interested in going. We had over 300 kids at homecoming, so I'm not sure. There's a lot of things going on. People are sick, or maybe we need to try something different.
It's really cold out.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving to item B is recognition. We do not have any recognition for this month. Letter C is public comment, and I think we have one person that signed up. If you'll bring the book up, I will read public comments at board meetings. The presiding officer of each board meeting at which public comment is permitted shall administer the rules of the board for its conduct. The presiding officer shall be guided by the following rules. Public comment shall be permitted before the board takes official action on any issue of substance. Attendees must register their intention to comment in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. Comments made by public shall be civil in content and tone, affirming the decorum established for a school board meeting by the school board. Disparaging comments, remarks about school board members, employees, students, positions, position titles, and or district citizens shall not made permitted. Comments by the public shall be in reference to a specific agenda item. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer, will be requested to preface their comments by an announcement of their name, group affiliation, if and when that is appropriate. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration, which Deanna will have the 5 minutes on her clock. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. Participants shall address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for recess or adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. The portion of the meeting during which the comment of public is invited shall be limited to 60 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. And we'll also have the 5 minutes on the screen, right, Dustin? Yeah. Thank you. And we have one person who has signed up, and that's Lisa Benishek. Lisa? Just be sure that mic is pulled down to you so the recording can catch you.
Well, I don't know if that'll work.
All right.
Want it too loud?
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Lisa Benishek, Kitchen Coordinator for the school district. I have been with the district for 10 years and hope to be here for 10 more. I wanted to speak tonight as I was recently made aware of a proposal that will be being discussed tonight's board meeting to possibly bring in a food service management group such as Taher and potentially source out our department. For obvious reasons, I would not be for this idea. It's difficult to understand why this would be considered with our food service department being self-supporting. Our department makes our own money, and with that, we pay our wages, insurance, and benefits through the district. One of our ways of bringing in extra money is through a la carte for our department, extra entrees, USDA-approved snacks and beverages, and catering events such as the one upcoming this week. I have been told that these companies would possibly hire some of our staff at better wages. I have not had ample time to dig deep into this. However, from things that I have heard and relying on our good friend Google, I see many scenarios. Some employees are able to keep district benefits while others are paid through sourced company. Regardless of which way this would go, I'm not seeing a benefit to our district and the dedicated staff in the kitchen, and certainly not to our community, in which we support by purchasing pizza locally through Gina's, North Star, and Little Caesars for our high school and middle school lunches with whole grain crusts, of course. It is my understanding that the district would need to pay a food management company for services, and at this time does not pay for our services. Many of our employees have a large number of years with our district, many of whom are building retirement and have built sick time in case of family illness or injuries. Whatever the reasons are for wanting to source out our department, I think could easily be remedied, and we are certainly on the right track with our new one-building elementary school coming soon, where the quality of our food would greatly improve with foods being able to be cooked fresh on-site for our elementary students instead of being cooked at the high school and transported over to each elementary. I was pleased to finally be given the opportunity to meet with Glenda for the first time last week and discuss menus and things that she would like to see change and be incorporated. I am looking forward to implementing our upcoming changes in the menus that I recently discussed with Glenda. We invite the members of the board to please visit our department kitchens and lunchrooms and see what is offered and meet our staff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, item 3, consent agenda, and I will add that Mrs. Oginski is on the telephone with us as she is home very sick this evening. So when she does talk, if and when she does talk, you'll hear You'll hear how she's not feeling well. Item 3, consent agenda. Letter A, approval of agenda, minutes, finance reports, requests for overnight travel, report of district new hires, district retirement, and resignation report. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the agenda, minutes from the January 20th, 2025 Board of Education meeting, February committee meeting minutes, financial reports for January 2025 and February 2025, consideration of current bills, checks number 8646 through 8719 in the amount of $93,503.74, ACHs number 242500870 through 242501036 in the amount of $800,087.83, and wire transfers in the amount of $13,585.45 for a total of $907,177.02.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I am unsure if I'm supposed to include the request for overnight travel in that motion.
Yes, you do need to include that.
Okay, included with that is the request for overnight travel.
Okay. Any other comments?
I would omit myself from check number 242500993.
Okay, let the record reflect that I'll recuse myself from ACH number 242500977. Angie, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just have a question on the teacher contract. What subject will this person be teaching? What grade?
Let me look and see.
Angie, are you talking about the attachment in the board docs? I just saw that.
Yes.
Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what class and what grade.
I believe that is for an occupational therapist.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Glenda. Any other questions or comments of the motion on the floor? Any other questions or comments of the motion on the floor? Hearing no questions or comments, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? All right, the vote is now closed, and the motion carries. We will go to item number 4, administration reports. I will turn this over to Mrs. Ojenski.
Okay, so first we have the Director of Business Services. Her report is attached. Are there any questions? Next, we have the Director of Pupil Services and Special Education. That report is attached. Are there any questions? Next, we have the Director of Buildings and Grounds. Report is attached. Are there any questions? Next, we have the Director of Technology. Report is attached. Are there any questions? Next, we have item E, Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Report is attached. Are there any questions? Okay, and next I have the Superintendent Report attached. So first item is on Thursday night, we had PBIS Pride Night at the middle school. We had several families and students attend. One section of Pride Night was also for 4K registration. Again, this year we held 4K online enrollment for students and families. During this time, everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Staff were excited and the kids were happy to be at school doing something fun and engaging with their friends. The next bullet is Mr. Leiterman and I have met virtually and in person with the Blue Design Group to work on different aspects of our new elementary building. Most recently, we made some revisions to the floor plan in order to have an inviting entrance. And these changes made a couple of moves in the layout of the building where we had to take some of the spaces and move them up to the second floor, which then would shrink the length of the building. So it causes every little change that is made as we go through the process, sometimes can create a domino effect. But I am very pleased with what we have so far for the entrance of the school. It looks very warm and inviting, and when you pull up to the front of the building, there's no question as to if you are at the front and what door you should enter. Last week, Blue Design Group was also on site. And again, we did some tweaking with some floor plans. We go through things such as if Steve, our architect, finds that the span between walls is too great, that we may need to add a column in one place or shift something somewhere else. And then we look at how that changes other things. And I often look at it through the lens of what does that look like with kids actually in the building? Are we creating hiding places that we don't necessarily want to have? So we spent a lot of time looking at exterior coverings for the building. We know we're going to have brick and stone and some type of material that looks like wood on the exterior of the building. But we are learning there are other products available to us, and we're being very price conscientious. So we have some other materials that are on order for us to look at. And we even have some buildings to go drive by in Weston to look at the stonework that's on the outside of those buildings to ensure that it's the correct color. Thursday last week, Jake went to Hortonville and spent until afternoon with the architects and the engineers discussing and reviewing HVAC, electrical rooms, water pipe locations, the placement of the new building on our property, the bus staging and entrances and exits from the property, and how all of that is going to be coordinated to ensure the highest quality of student safety while kids are present in the building. And I also have linked in my report, it's like a running agenda that we have when we meet with them, and some notes are in there. And if there are changes made from one meeting to the next, that's also noted in there, because we had hoped that in January, we would be meeting with staff to look at classroom layouts, and we have not been able to do that yet. So we're shooting for March, hopefully, to get that done. Steve assures us that we are ahead of timelines by a couple of months, which is encouraging because I want it to hurry up and get started. But also, planning for the 25-26 school year has begun. Our district administrators, building principals, and associate principals have started back on the book study, the Auden book study, to help guide our decision-making for staffing allocations for the upcoming school year. We've started meeting at NTC so that we have room to work as a collective whole group. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 27th, and we'll be reviewing chapters 3 and 4 and talking about staffing numbers and master schedule planning. Also, one last thing, we are at a point that Ms. Studstream needs to have another data meeting, and I am wondering if all board members are available for February 27th to schedule that. And it will be a more relaxed environment where the board will sit in the audience while the data presentation happens. So it would be February 27th at the standard 6:15 time. And if that works, Deanna and I can get that on the calendar.
Glenda, that works for me. Let's hear Scott. Scott is okay.
What day of the week?
27th is a Thursday. It would be next Thursday,
At what time?
6:15.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm good.
It's good with Bobby and Scott and Angie, myself. Jill, JD, and Dr. Bardo. So it's good for everybody that's present.
Okay, perfect. We'll get that scheduled and Deanna can get it posted and we'll get the agenda set. And that's all I have for my report. Do you have any questions about anything I spoke about?
Glenda, when are you gonna show us some pictures or blueprints that you guys are
As soon
working on?
as that's part of it, JD, and I agree, I want to see the pictures because it's very hard for me to visualize the new building. And when Steve, our architect, is putting things on paper, if he's using a different size stone than what I think we're going to have, it really distorts the outwardly appearance of the building. So they've already started work on the renderings. So as soon as everything is solidified, they'll get those renderings set and then we'll be able to share them out with everyone.
Glenda, did Steve give you a timeline as to when those renderings could be submitted out to the board?
No, he did
No,
not, but I
okay.
can ask if he has some sort of a close idea.
Okay.
In looking at the attachment with the agenda and the minutes, I would venture to guess that those action items need to be completed in order for them to do a rendering. I will comment and share my appreciation for that attachment. I think it's very insightful. I do believe that's also available to the public. Unfortunately, I didn't check not logged into board docs, but I do think that is very transparent and I appreciate that. So thank you for including it.
You're very welcome.
What attachment are you talking about?
If you go, open up Glenda's.
Click the link. There's a link
Blue
in my
Design Group.
report.
Where it says Blue Design Group, click there and you'll see,
I got you.
and then scroll down. There you go. Are there any other questions for Mrs. Oginski?
And I'll ask Steve if he has any idea how much longer before he thinks the renderings might be ready.
Okay, if there are no other questions for Mrs. Oginski, we'll move on to item 5, board action. Letter A, food service RFP proposal. I will be looking for a motion.
I move that we send RFPs to DPI for our food service program.
Motion's been made by Dr. Bardo. Would you like to speak to your motion, please?
It came through the Finance Committee last Monday. Actually, Mr. Pyatt did most of the talking, and I actually did a lot of listening. I know this was something that Glenda and Mr. Pyatt looked at while they were at the board convention in Milwaukee. So I'm going to give up my time and pass it along to our board president.
So this was something, and Sarah was at the committee meeting and gave some valuable information at the committee meeting as well this last Monday, a week ago tonight. Bobby also was at the convention and went by and visited some of the food booths that were there that serves to school districts. Questions that I had for these food vendors is, how many schools do you serve? And there's one vendor that serves 60 schools in the state of Wisconsin. And there are several schools around us that use, what is it called, Bobby?
Name of the company?
Not the names of the company, because I can't remember all the names of the company that we visited. But the food service management companies that come in, there are several schools around us that use those food service management companies. And the food that they served was phenomenal, and they said that's the same type of food that they serve here at the schools. And they are willing, all that I talked to, are willing to come and do demonstrations as to what they serve, the types of menus that they serve. And just because we are moving this for proposals to go to DPI doesn't necessarily mean that this is the 100% decision, because we may interview all the food companies and decide we don't want to have anything to do with that and come back and continue with what we're doing. But this is an opportunity for us to take a look at the food service that we had. since I came on the board in 2017, and Jeannie Long, then board member, introduced me to a lot of the food management companies at the convention. I came back and was presenting some of that information to our administration, and we just didn't get any farther to bring and present to the board. So this is a time for us to have these food service companies to come in, present to the board, and then we can decide yes or no, go from here. Ms. Luzinski, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. So in the RFP process, we have to create a scoring rubric that is, calculates to a total of 100, where we rate, rank what things are most important to us. And I believe the highest rated item can only be a total of 15 points. And there's a list of items such as cost, financial proposal, transparency and reporting of rebates, discounts, and credits, guarantees to food service account, experience, reference, and service capability, financial condition, on-site manager, food service director, overall staffing plan, professional development, training opportunities, promotion of the school food service program, involvement of students, staff, and patrons, and menu selection. And we take those items and we weight them to what is most important for our school district. I spoke with a couple of different business managers who have gone through this process, and so they don't come in, meaning if we choose to go with the food service management group, they don't come in and have access to our funds necessarily. They would charge a management fee, and we still have the ability to make money from food services, which is what, you know, their be-all, end-all would be to create menus that would encourage greater participation and more sales of a la carte items. But it's very structured through DPI, what the RFP process is. So if this is something the board is interested in, we need to get started on gathering the information to complete the RFP proposal. And it could be that different companies would come and present, and we could decide we're not interested in going with any of them, and we stay as we are.
What were you hoping to accomplish, Danny? What did you want to change?
Well, when my son and daughter was in school, and I don't refer to them very often from the board table because they shouldn't be part of this discussion, they were in Pleasant View Elementary School, and as a result of, like we have heard, the meals being prepared here and then transferred out there, it wasn't the best quality of food. It's the best that we could do at the time. So my own personal experience of the lunch food was not a very good one. And the kids oftentimes start off with a lot of carbs and a lot of Pop-Tarts, cereal bars, things like that throughout the day in the morning time for breakfast, rather than having some protein. And I know you can't have too much protein because it's not good for you either. However, I do believe that there is a balance between student achievement as well as the foods that they eat. We know that whenever you don't eat, it clouds your brain, your focus. And if you eat the wrong types of foods, it clouds your brain and your focus as well. So this is just something for us to look at to see, is there anything better? Maybe there's not. This is just something for us to look at as a board and try to make the determination.
Right, because I mean, we could just sell different foods, but I assume the problem is they don't eat it. So then you get back in that hole.
Well, I would assume we've changed our menu since 2017 too, right? I mean, that's a long time.
Well, my son graduated 2 years ago from this building, so it's been
You were
recent.
referencing Pleasant View, so
Yeah.
that's quite a while ago.
I'm sorry.
No, you can go, you can go ahead. I just didn't know if you were looking for more healthy food or cheaper food or better tasting food, or, you know, if we gave the kitchen staff feedback of what you wanted, or if you were just exploring for
No,
Just
just
like a general
exploring,
improvement.
just exploring, yes.
Yeah, I guess that was my question too, because like, have we given the directive to, go more, a healthier route, offer other, ideas on other things to offer other than the sugary items? Have we done that?
I have not personally, because I don't have that permission to do that directive, but
I have had several conversations with our food service director.
And, okay, so what was the reasoning why we didn't do that, I guess?
Can you repeat that question, Angie?
What was the reason that, if you, the directive, right, of, say, having healthier breakfasts available, was that, like, not followed through with, or was that the case like what JD said, where it was offered and nobody took it, so it was just a waste of food, or do we know the outcome?
I can only speak for what I see at North Elementary, and I encourage all of my students to eat. I walk up and down the halls in the morning, telling them what we're having for breakfast, encouraging them to eat breakfast, because for many of them, I know it is the best food that they get all day long, and it's very important to me because if kids are crashing from a sugar high, we see elevated behaviors, and I have expressed my concern with the amount of sugars our kids are getting each morning with breakfast, and encouraging that we have eggs and toast and things of that nature.
And so we've done that.
Yes.
I mean, but, so how are we having, can we open this up to the food staff?
actually, this is a board discussion, yeah.
Okay, but I'm just like, because I have no idea what percentage of the meals are Pop-Tart based and which percentage are have eggs or something. Like, is eggs offered every day? Or could it be, or is it too much money, or is it eggs like $50?
I can tell you eggs are not offered every day, not at the elementary. Many times our breakfast is, we have yogurt, or we have Cinnamonies, we have cheese sticks, applesauce cup. We always have peaches or pineapple in a cup, fruit juice, cereal.
Is there a time frame that we need to have these RFPs, submit, move to DPI, or for the food programs, or?
Yes,
Glenda
there
has
is.
that.
That's a good question, Angie. There's a very rigid process that you have to follow to go through the RFP process for this.
So what, time frame? I guess what I'm really wondering is if we would have time to send this back to committee so that, like JD said, we could get more data to be able to make a better educated decision on this, I guess.
It just seems like, to me, likely if you bring in outside staff that doesn't live here, it's gonna get worse and not better. Because like, if I make eggs at home, then they're cold in 10 minutes and then they're not good anymore. And eggs are hardly ever good at a hotel. So I just assume it's hard to, I don't know.
I'm going to jump in here for a minute, because Jill and Bobby have not had anything to say, and I think both of them want to say something. So I'll let them take over the floor for just a moment.
So I just wanted to add that in attending the convention for a couple of years, we've seen these outside companies that can come in. I've also been up to Tomahawk School District where their food quality is superb. I know, not to reference my own kids, but my own children, and after working in the high school building, I don't think that our food service or our food quality is the best, and I don't put blame on anybody for that. And I want you guys to know that, because I love the food service staff. There's no issues there. I just think that the ultimate goal here is to provide healthier, better options for our kids, which is in direct correlation to their learning. And whether that be sourced out or we revamp our own menus and our own food plans, we need to do better in serving them better options and healthier choices so they do better in school. I don't know that anybody would disagree with that. But I know your hands are tied. You're working within a budget also, and timelines and everything else that you do in your operations. So I feel like I feel like we have to look at both options, whether, you know, what is the best bang for our buck? What's the most costly? How well can we serve our students? And then the other really cool thing about some of those companies were that they engaged classroom, like they worked a lot with the culinary department in teaching nutrition, balanced meals, stuff like that. They worked with the ag classes in their, like the school garden and stuff, and incorporating those foods into meal prep. So I think that our program just needs some enhancements for the betterment of our students. I don't feel that we're disservicing them by any means, but I think we can do better.
Jill?
Can I just say something real quick, Jill? I'm sorry to interrupt, but JD, I want to be clear that you understand that it doesn't necessarily mean that other people will be coming in to do this work. It means that it would be managed by someone else, but most often they hire our employees, and the companies that I spoke with said that many times they get a better salary than what the school district can afford to pay them.
My feedback echoes almost entirely what Bobby had shared. First of all, I don't think anybody on this board has anything negative about food service or staff in food service, because you guys do excellent work. We know that there is a strong correlation between the type of foods that we eat and behavioral impact to that. I entirely agree with Bobby that I should actually back up. RFPs are at no cost to the district, correct?
Correct.
So with that, I think information is knowledge, and getting that information to make a well-informed decision would be very helpful in that time. And my thought would be, instead of sending it back to committee, task committee moving forward in tandem with the RFP process, that we get some additional information that has been asked. What's the cost impact to the district? What companies in the RFPs, what's the likelihood or the percentage of time that they rehire the district staff? You know, like getting information, what does this mean for our staff? Salary and benefits, where does that come from, us or them? Food quality, nutritional value, that's something that's really important to me as just one board member. Ultra-processed foods, seed oils, food dyes, all the things. We know there's science to back this on the impacts of students' ability to learn with the types of foods that they're provided. So I think it is something that I would be in support of exploring and gathering information, while also getting information currently from our food staff, and to see what healthier options are available. Like fruit in a cup is great, however, when you look at the ingredients and what that does to the body, can we do better? I don't know that answer, but I think it's a really good opportunity to explore across the board. And there may be things that we can do internally that we don't need a food management company to come in to do through the process. So I am in support of moving forward with it with, there's a word I want and I'm blanking on it.
So the RFP is just a process to evaluate something.
Correct. Our RFPs are used to determine, like we did with the architects, we put an RFP out for the architects. Transportation, we put RFPs out for transportation, and we interview the companies that want to provide the architect services, the transportation services. So this is a piece of the district that we have not put out an RFP on in the past. This is something new for us. Jill, I think did you have something else?
Just to ensure that we are doing the same thing internally as we're seeking RFPs from management companies. I also think public comment made a really strong point about our current barrier will be resolved with the new build. So another thought that comes to mind, and I'm not leaning any direction, but perhaps doing a management company next year for a year to try it or before we get our new build where we can be more efficient, we can have healthier options because we are on site, we aren't transporting. So just staying really objective of what is best for our students, certainly cost effectiveness, and very importantly, how does it impact our current staff?
When I was in high school, I had a piece of pizza and a cookie every day for 4 years. So, like, I don't know if you're physically gonna prescribe, hey, you cannot buy a piece of pizza every day. Like, how are you gonna take away their free choice unless you're willing to do that?
Angie, go ahead.
There won't be a limit of the choice. I mean, that won't go away.
Again, going back to the data that we would like to see, I would like to see, you know, if what we've offered that's been healthier in the past and have the students taken that, and what's the percentage of that? Because like, it's one thing to offer healthy food, it's another thing to have the kids actually eat it, right? And then my other question was, okay, so the motion says that we're gonna send the RFPs to DPI for our food service program. If we were putting out RFPs, when we do that in hopes to get information directly from the food service programs, like why does it have to go through DPI?
Glenda, I'll let you explain this process that it has to go through DPI, please.
Yeah, that is just how it's determined by DPI, and it's a very rigid process. So you don't get to just go through the RFP without going through DPI, because it's all submitted through the DPI website. Then all of these food service companies have access to that. And then at that point, they choose whether they're interested in bidding on our opportunity or not.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Glenda, does the proposal from the food management company come directly to the school? It's just the process goes through DPI, and that's where they see the list of schools that are opening their food service program up.
Correct. It just goes through DPI. We actually will be the people who open the proposals.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My last question, I guess, is, so am I understanding this correctly, that this would be an additional cost to the district then, versus if we just did it in-house?
There is a management fee, and through the process, sometimes at the initial onset, there may be more funding required than not, depending on the current state of the district. But a company really can't tell us that until they get in and they see what we have on hand and what items we have. But it's never usually, it's my understanding from speaking with multiple business managers, that it's never a loss for the school district. And we are only under contract for 1 year if we choose. We don't have to renew, but we can renew up to 4 years, 4 times after the first one. And then we go through the RFP process again. It's for a total of 5 years. We
Okay.
can do that.
So can you give me a range? I know it's based on, like you said, it's based on what we offer, and have on hand and stuff like that, but can you give me a range of like what the fees would be? Like, is it,
I don't know that.
okay.
It's weird to me because our food service budget is always, like, we always have too much money, right?
Right.
It's a weird, like, we get too much federal funds, we can't spend it, but we can't use it to pay the balances, so then we have to buy dishwashers.
Yeah, I agree.
So you already got that, but if we wanted to pay them more, couldn't we just pay them more? Like, so they're gonna charge us more so they can get paid more? It just feels weird.
So that is kind of my question as well, is how our food service budget looks, and then how does free and reduced lunch, how is that impacted? Are we allowed X amount of dollars because we have a percentage of kids on free and reduced lunch? And then why are we ending up with excess funds? Are we able to just buy better foods, better quality foods, and we're not? So this is my point, is that our own program in-house needs to be reviewed as well, along with the process of looking outsourcing, I guess.
I'll just make a final comment that this is of interest, it seems, based on discussion, and so I would encourage board members to be looking at agendas for committee meetings coming up. It would be advantageous for us, if we're not on that committee, to attend or submit questions ahead of time, because I do think this will be a very thorough deep dive, is really what I'm sensing, and it should be. And so I think to make a well-informed decision, we can also
Right.
participate.
Danny, can we just hear from them for like 3 minutes? I just hear, if they would.
The only one that we could hear from is the director, Sarah. Sarah would be the only one that could come to the microphone, if you have a question directly to Sarah.
I'm just curious if you want to just talk about the eggs, like the elementary school, and like what it would take to have healthier food, if you think people would eat it.
Put you right on the
We
spot.
do, we offer fresh vegetables every single day, and the foods that we have mostly are commodity foods, like, you know, your basic, your meats, your chickens, those sort of, your main entrees come from commodities, because we do get quite a bit of commodity dollars, and you get your dollars based on how many meals you serve. So like, last year, I ended up getting $100,000 in commodity money. So with that, you have like your 2 weeks to go in and place your commodity orders, you know, your chicken patty, your nuggets, your mini corn dogs, those sort of foods that are offered through commodity foods, your fruits, frozen vegetables, excuse me, French toast sticks, stuff like that. So all of those foods, when we're able to get them like that, that helps with our overall cost. So that's where, that helps with the cost savings. So as far as like, the kids get salad every day, baby carrots. We alternate during the week, like broccoli, tomatoes, all those sort of things that they're getting. At the middle school, there is a salad bar where they actually have a salad line that they go through, and plus there's also fresh fruit and vegetables on those lines too. And here at the high school, and like you were saying, as far as like quantities, when you look at the salad line, we have a display case which has salads already made up for everybody, and it has the components that are required, like your beans and dark green veggies and different things like that, so that all your vegetable requirements are inside that salad. And some come with chicken, and some come with ham, and some are just, you know, just plain. And then we offer seeds and eggs and dressing and that sort of stuff for those. But like, unfortunately, salad line, 30 to maybe 50 salads a day. And before like graduation this year in January, we were serving probably about 500 to 525 kids a day here at the high school. And there were about, I mean, the enrollment was like 779. That doesn't mean they're all there through the whole school day, but that's about what the enrollment is. So here at the high school, when I first came, we were only serving about 41% of our high school students, and now we are up to 70% a day. At the middle school, usually it's about 80 to 85% of the students eat lunch, which is pretty good for a middle school. So you guys are doing a good job. And as far as the elementary school, it's usually around 75 to 80, depending, I mean, if it's hot dog, it's 95, but, you know, because you like to say, oh, they love to have, you know, good foods and stuff like that, but they do like stuff like the hot dogs and the chicken nuggets and hamburgers and
the
those
pizza
sort of
and the
things.
cookie.
Pizza, oh yeah, they love pizza,
So
pizza dippers,
The other percentage are packing lunch?
yeah.
Okay.
And all students, 4K through 12 is free lunch. We're CEP, so the Community Eligibility Provision. So all of our meals are free for our students.
For the high school, are the others that are packing lunch, or are they eating à la carte?
At the high school,
Probably a combination of both,
probably a
right?
combination of both.
Okay.
And yeah, there are quite a few pizza sales in a day, so.
I'm sorry, say that again. So there's à la carte, meaning you have to pay for it, but the other stuff is free.
Yes,
Right.
yes, but the à la carte stuff, That's like the lunch entree, they can get like a double portion or whatever as à la carte. Or if a student just comes through and only wants a slice of pizza and a milk, that's not considered a complete meal, because you do have to have so many certain meal components before it's called a reimbursable meal. So that would be like an à la carte meal.
So if you wanted to buy better chicken or something, and we had extra money, could you, or you have to make all those orders in 2 weeks? You don't know if we have extra money yet, or?
Well, we have had to sometimes order other popcorn chicken and those sort of things. Actually, the government stuff has been better.
Better in what capacity?
As far as like, once it's cooked, sometimes the stuff that we've ended up ordering has turned out to be like really hard, like
So-
and crispy and stuff like
With the
that.
commodity dollars, it's interesting to me. Do we have access to the sourcing of the meats? Like, what ingredients are used in those commodity dollars? I would venture to guess, though good meat options probably are pumped with a lot of additives and things.
Your commodity foods are selected from the USDA. So the USDA selects the commodity foods, and then the state, like the DPI employees, they kind of narrow it down to what they're going to put on that offer for us. So you only get to order, I mean, it could be Pilgrim's Pride one year, it could be Tyson the next year. It all depends which company they contract with.
Thank you.
2 questions. You said that we are community eligibility,
Provision.
okay, and what is the, why are we that? What are the,
We're,
is that based on?
it's
like,
based on our free and reduced
income?
percentage,
Okay.
yep,
Like income level overall?
overall. So, there's certain standards where they look at, your percentage of free and reduced, and
Right.
if, and they're changing that number because it had been 40%, then they were dropping it to 25% to get more schools picking up CEP, but now, I don't know if they're gonna raise it to 60%, I'm not sure. We're in like a 4-year contract, and we're in year 3.
Okay,
So what happens is, when you go into CEP, for all the meals that are served, your reimbursement is either at a paid rate or at the free rate. So there's no reduced in there anymore.
okay,
So all of our elementary meals and middle school meals, 95% of those, we get back at the free rate. So the other 5%, we get back at the paid rate, which is quite a bit less. At the high school, our free meals, it's 69%. And so the paid is 31. The reason we do take that hit is because otherwise the high school students probably wouldn't qualify for CEP if we weren't able to cover it with the elementary.
so my question is, and this, we don't have to discuss this tonight, this can go back to committee, is what happens to that provision when we outsource, for one question, and then for 2, kind of back to the commodity selections, is, and I don't know, and just as an example, instead of ordering breaded chicken nuggets, can we order grilled chicken tenders or something that would be a healthier choice without the additives and stuff? Or, is the list,
They don't have that on the list. They do have like a chicken, grilled chicken breast, which we have tried. It tastes good. It doesn't look pretty, so that's the only thing with that.
That's hard.
That's hard, yeah.
So you can't just go to Walmart and buy bags and bags of boneless chicken
That's
and
funny.
cook it?
No,
okay.
Angie, you got a
no,
question?
and we order food through like Cisco and Reinhardt, sorry.
I guess we need to understand that whole process in a bigger capacity. I do.
Will you
anyways.
briefly talk about the breakfast options? Like, what's it take to get eggs and sausage and
we're-
bacon to the elementary kids right now?
Well, we are having eggs once a week. As far as like
Do they eat them?
well,
At
the
the
first time they
elementary?
were introduced, yes. So the next time we had breakfast sandwiches, we had quite a few less. you know, they're kind of excited when something new first comes out. So, I mean, but it's something, if, as long as you even have half the kids that are eating it, if they eat it,
If they're hungry, they'll eat.
right, yep. So, one thing, like, as far as your requirements at breakfast, it's, you have a grain requirement, and then you have your fruit requirement, and then your milk requirement. So,
Angie, you got a question?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, so you were talking about the commodities list that you order from. What does food service programs, do they order from off that same list, or is it, are they have like expanded list, or like, how
Some-
is theirs better?
Some do, some also have like a food buying group where they're able to direct divert. And I've checked into a food buying group. The only thing with our food buying group is they didn't really come to this area. So there also is direct diversion as far as like your chicken, some beef, but you do it by poundage
Okay,
to, you know, certain companies. And the only thing is, you know, if you say, I'm gonna have so much of this made to this, and then so much it made to this, and then that is something that they don't like at all, you're kind of,
committed to it,
yes.
okay.
You
Or
don't have a
we know-
grinder and make salad.
Or we know they like chicken nuggets.
So how are the food service programs, how are they able to offer these better meals then? Like if they're all coming from the same source, how is that better than what we have? You know what I mean? I'm trying to
I think,
wrap my
well,
head around that.
what happens is, all of our food for our elementaries is cooked here at the high school. So then it gets put into Cambros and shipped out.
Yes,
So when this gets shipped out, it gets steamed. So things like your mini corn dogs and your chicken nuggets and your chicken patties, sometimes the breading gets kind of
Sorry.
gummy, soggy, yes. So we do have heating ovens or
Yep.
heating ovens kind of things at each elementary that they can put them in to kind of dry them out a little bit. But that's it, you know, when you have everything here and then you ship it out, your quality is going to,
so by having the new school, that issue is going to be, you know, eliminated. So is it going to be the same quality of food after the new school is built then? You know what I mean, like,
no,
So
because
I think it would
basically
be-
they'll be making it,
yeah.
turning it around, serving
Right.
it, kind of.
okay,
You know, and you get 50% of, I mean, I'm just thinking back, I went to school a long time ago, but they used to stand there and check your milk carton to make sure, that's how many kids were throwing food away then, so it really hasn't changed a whole lot. Like, principal was always by the wastebasket, making sure you ate what you were supposed to.
One question, are you able to, or do you, and I don't know, I mean, chicken nuggets, stuff like that, they're done, you're just heating them and serving them, basically. But are you allowed to do something like, you have X number of pounds of ground beef, and you cook that and make spaghetti sauce, or you make a hot dish? Is the kitchen staff preparing any foods, like, from start to finish, instead of just the heat and serve type foods?
Oh, like spaghetti, we do use already a pre-cooked crumble, and that also has to do with food safety.
Okay,
So, you know, you do kind of risk things when you are going from a raw product to cooking it and transporting and all those sort of things, the heat, the cooling, all that sort of stuff. So we go with an already cooked spaghetti, like the product like that, and then we add the spaghetti sauce to it. We cook our own noodles,
okay.
all that sort of stuff.
My final comment is simply that I think in this process, as just one voice, it's important to know that obviously we as humans are typically going to pick the food that tastes better. And when you check nutritional labels, and I'm not talking like fat, sodium, I'm talking ingredients specifically, those are worse off for you. So yes, a change if there's solutions that are a healthier sourced foods in general, I don't care where it's coming from, just in general. Students are not likely to be as excited about that initially, but a consideration in the process is, are we okay with providing more unhealthy foods because kids are eating them? Or Are we wanting to shift to healthier food options? Again, that's a general statement. And incorporating that change, knowing buy-in at first is probably not going to be as welcoming.
And I also think it has a lot to do with the type of food that they're getting at home, because if you're used to the taste of highly processed foods, it's hard to go, you know, to all of a sudden like the fresh foods, the healthier foods, stuff like that, because you're not, you know, it's a different taste, it is. So, so that's part of it too.
Any other questions, discussion?
Sarah, do you control your staff's wages, or is that administration?
It's usually through the business office. That's where,
Sarah, unfortunately, can you come back to the mic? Thanks.
Don't apologize, it's totally natural to
By the way,
respond. I
you
totally get it.
look and sound a lot better tonight than you did last Monday.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad you're feeling better.
I know, it's like this cold will not go away. As far as with wages, usually, I would meet with Tim, and we would discuss, you know, what we're gonna increase wage, that sort of thing. We did do a wage increase, a couple of years ago, and then whenever it's the cost of living, everyone goes up like that too.
Your positions are graded the same as any non-hourly employee,
Okay, but it gets paid out of the food service.
correct?
Yes.
That we
Yes.
usually have, why do we usually have too much money again?
Now I feel like we're strained.
I think-
So with all due respect,
I think we're moving in a direction that is not wrapped around the item on the table.
can be relevant, but I think there's a
Yes.
lot of components, and you've shared what you can and can't purchase with different funds and the limitations, and that comes from the state in the past. So I'm just simply saying that I think that is a good question with lots of,
Can it be just like a
Avenues.
30-second answer?
Well, as far as like your reimbursement, that increases every year. And then I also apply for programs and grants and you know, try to get things covered by the state whenever I can. So,
Okay, well, no more questions on wages.
Okay.
I'm
So
gonna
you do-
stop there.
So you do a
right
good job, and then we have too much money.
I know.
yeah.
there. Question has been called by Bobby for the motion that is on the floor, and the motion on the floor is, I move that we send RFPs to DPI for our food service program. That is the motion on the floor. The voting device is now open.
So to be clear, if we vote yes, we do not,
If you vote yes, you do,
we're still exploring.
we're still exploring, yes.
Because that doesn't,
correct.
the motion doesn't sound like that. It
We're
sounds
just
like-
sending the RFPs to DPI for our food service program. That's the beginning of the process.
Okay.
Yep. Great question, Angie. Voting device, would anyone like to change their vote? All right, the vote is now closed. And the motion carries. All right, item number 6, new business. Letter A, process to determine the future of the elementary buildings and central office building. I'll defer the beginning of the discussion to Mrs. Oginski.
So this is added as an item so that we can begin the conversations around what you as a board would like to do to determine what will happen with our buildings once we are in the new elementary building. And I wanted to go ahead and get it out here so that we are able to have enough time, if you are planning to garner feedback from our community, to determine what that process is gonna look like, how you will do it, and then go from there. But I felt like this was an ideal time to do that so that it's one more thing that we have completed.
I know there have been discussion pre-referendum and then post-referendum about having a task force. There have been discussion as to putting the buildings up for sale. There's been lots of discussion as to where we go with the buildings. So in meeting with Glenda, Dr. Bardo and I have talked with her and said, what do we do here? And this is where this came from, just to get some discussion. Nothing will be definite tonight as to what we're going to do. This is just discussion to give some clarification and possible direction. And we'll bring it back to the board to decide exactly what we're going to do. Does that make sense for everybody? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I should have had everybody's name in a hat and just drew names here. I'm going to start with Bobby to my left, and then we'll go around the table in this direction, and you just talk about what your opinions and ideas are for the elementary building and central office. And Bobby, I'll give you a chance to come back and say something again after you've had more time to think.
Well, elementary building, obviously, I feel like we're moving in the right direction. With the new building, the process for the existing buildings, you know, I think we discussed using the best one, whichever that may be, and turning central office into that building. But I also feel like if there's any possibility of having central office right on site with the rest of our campus is most beneficial. If that's at all possible, I would strongly support that, just because I feel it's important for everything to be in one location. And then the process for selling the elementary buildings, you know, we spent meetings upon meetings trying to figure out what to do with the 3 rural buildings. And I would hate to see us go down that path again, because those buildings aged over our negotiations, and you know, I think it was damaging to the buildings, to the folks that had purchased them. I just think we need to be a little bit more proactive, and that's why I'm glad it's on the table tonight for discussion, because those decisions have to be part of this entire plan. But again, I would like to see central office be located on campus with everything else.
I think that's the best option. I support Bobby's. Yeah, get it. I taught in a school where it was K through 12, and it was awesome. Everybody knew the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
So when the superintendent said something, it wasn't like coming from the ivory tower. It was, the kindergartners knew Mr. Walker.
Mm-hmm.
It was much more personable, and just the cost savings. Could get rid of all those buildings, so I would support moving it if we can.
Moving central office on campus with
On
the
campus.
students and selling the elementary buildings.
Absolutely.
Okay? And
Except for maybe knock west down if we are gonna use that area as an athletic complex. I mean, if we end up doing that, something there, we're gonna need parking. And we own the land across from west too, right?
yes, we do.
So, there's parking there, I guess. But I would support moving this, getting rid of central office.
Actually, the property would be to the south of West.
Yeah, across the street.
South side of
Right.
7th Avenue,
Right.
yes.
So if that would turn into some sort of athletic property, facility, whatever, you know, is there a possibility of converting the West Elementary building into anything else? Storage, locker facility, you know, can that building still,
Something to look
or
into.
half of it, or, I don't know.
Showers?
Right, whatever.
They don't use them anymore anyway. They get on the bus.
Ugh.
They do.
Yeah, I've driven those buses. Angie, go ahead.
So I agree with everybody so far, with moving central office to the campus site, basically, you know, to this area, high school, new elementary, whatever. So I think that would be really good, and I feel very strongly that the elementary buildings and central office should be sold, they should be sold, not given away, not sold for like $1, but sold. And I think we all recognize that it's not gonna be, you know, this big dollar, item, because it's gonna be, it needs a lot of work, all the facilities do. But like, even like the Wausau School District is looking at consolidating, and they already have buyers lined up for their school buildings. And I know, I personally know a couple different investment groups that this is what they do. They come in and they buy, you know, older buildings, and then they turn them into apartments, stuff like that, or, you know, senior living or something like that. So we definitely should be looking at selling the buildings and, like I said, not giving them away, not super cheap, right? But a fair price.
Fair market value.
So, yeah.
Okay. Jill?
I'm interested to know what other districts have done. I don't know what is common practice, what are good options. So I was really interested in hearing feedback from board members tonight. I am 100% on board with central office being relocated into either an existing building or the new build. I think the location is horrible. The conditions of that building are nearly deplorable, and it's arguably a health hazard. So I say let's move them as long as it works financially and within the space. I am supportive to selling the elementary buildings. I think West Elementary is a separate discussion because of the football field. Although I like the idea, and I'm not closed-minded to could we repurpose any of the buildings, I struggle with that idea because we made it very clear to our community that we mismanage those buildings, and as a result, they require a significant amount of financial investment to get them up to par, not great, but just simply functionable. So I really struggle, and I don't think that would be well received from the community, that, oh, just kidding, we're gonna keep one of the buildings. Though maybe there could be a really good reason. I'm not sure. I'm open to that discussion. I'm just not leaning in that direction. I also would be very interested in the status of, is the football field staying where it is? Are we moving forward with looking at other options for the location? I would love to see the football field located out here at the high school. If that is something that can be feasible, I'm not in those discussions. I don't know that I've seen it on agendas
think we've
or
had any
committees.
discussions.
That
Not yet.
doesn't mean that Jake's not working on that on the back end, because I feel very confident he is in terms of the new build and location and dollars and bleachers and all those things.
He is, yes. It has been in discussions with that, with the Gridiron Club and all, yeah.
Thank you.
All the
Necessarily
stakeholders.
where they're gonna go or anything yet. I've been in on that, and
many
they're still
moving parts.
battling about where to go.
Yeah, but the discussions have been
Happening, right, but
happening.
nothing really serious yet.
So West Elementary is going to be a separate consideration in my mind because of the football field, whether it's used by us or not, and also because of the land to the south. Would that be included with that sale? Would it be separate? Maybe that could be enticing to a buyer for a reason. So I think West is kind of I don't want to say an anomaly, but just it needs to have more
Standalone.
intentional discussion. I've also heard that there are certainly interested parties in our buildings, so I support Angie of fair market value moving forward. I also appreciated Bobby's feedback of if we hold on to them for too long, we're devaluing them. There's no reason to keep these. We've already well established we need to get rid of them. The voters have supported that, so I would say move forward with that.
Hopefully something.
Okay. Kristen?
Yep, I would just echo all that. West needs to be a separate discussion, but move forward with the sale sooner rather than later with the other 3 buildings.
If the titles are anything like the titles for the rural schools, this is how we got to selling them for $1, because 4 townships all shared the title once we were giving them up.
Well, this should be.
JD, I just want to tell you that discussion I've already had with Glenda and Deanna and Jake about making sure that those properties are deeded to the school district. And
Are they, or we don't?
no
know?
other interest. They're doing the research right now. Deanna might have an answer for us. I don't want to put her on the spot, but
Nope, that's okay. Steve from Langlade hasn't gotten back to me yet. But it will, we are definitely looking in the 3 elementaries and central office. And also, just so we know what our middle school, we just want to know all our,
Absolutely.
Okay, because that just really messed us up when we tried
that's
to,
just for future
right,
reference. but
we
just-
tried to sell Mattoon for real money and then it did
Correct.
not
Right.
work. And so I don't know if, it could be weird things, old entities before the town of Annie go or,
Well, he knows well enough to look, and I made it very clear to him that please look at any persons,
Yes.
entity, anything. He's gotta do a lot of history.
our other problem is, what if All Saints or Peace Lutheran says, hey, we want to open up a high school? Gonna sell to them if they're the high market value?
Good question.
So I just want to add one thing.
Hold 1 second, I'll
Oh,
come back to
okay.
you. If JD's done, we'll go to
Yeah,
Dave.
sorry.
But otherwise, I'm with you guys. I don't know, did Glenda mention, is there currently in the design space for central office? I don't know how many more offices and stuff to get central to the current building. Can she comment on that right now?
She can hear you.
So JD, what exactly did you ask about office space? I
Do you,
couldn't hear
do you think,
exactly.
can you fit central office into the new building?
So I inquired about that with Steve, and there's something with a firewall that has to be built if central office is attached to the new elementary. And he suggested that we get some local company to just, what most people call it, stick-built building, because it will cost less money to do it that way than if it's attached to the building.
And
So
that
we
makes
have inquired, but not a whole lot, because that's kind of like last on our list.
Oh, so we could use the referendum funds to build a separate little building, but
Yes.
it could not be technically in the
Correct, because it was part of the scope of the referendum.
So do you
Yeah,
have,
we can use the money to build the central office. That was what in our referendum language.
did you agree, Glenda, that you think it'd be better to be on site, or is it better to be in, I don't know, you spend a lot of time in North?
I think it's better to be, like, if we have the new elementary and the high school over on that one property, I think being over there is most advantageous. I've never been in a central office where we were in a school building. So I'm sure there are pros and cons. I just don't have personal experience with that.
What if we had to put you in the middle school?
Well,
Just a thought,
it's in the middle school, but it's, the most of our kids are not at the middle school.
I guess, but it'd be better than where you're at, is all I'm saying.
Or West is at least the closest, but it's not that much closer than
Yeah, I would,
current, it's,
at least you'd be in a building. It's not ideal, I'm not saying that's what we should do. Just threw it out there.
I would look at the square footage of the current elementary buildings to say that it would be an inefficient use of that space and utility costs to bring central office staff into a current existing elementary school. Just my guess.
Dave?
Basically, I'm on board with everything I've heard. I think we have to look at selling north and east. I had a situation when I was a superintendent down at Whitburn where we closed a building and we immediately sold it. The way we did it was by bids. And we accepted the bid that was the best for the school district. Opened it up, whoever bid the most, they got the building. And that way, we didn't show favoritism to anybody. It was just, we opened it up for bids, had a date. Board president had opened up all the bids at an open meeting, and then the person who got it, got it. And then there was no complaints.
Was there a minimum bid?
What?
Was there a minimum bid requirement?
At that time, there was, and there was 7 bids for Eland, the
Okay.
building down in Eland.
When we sold Spring Valley, we used a web page and got a bunch of bids, but I can't remember if there was a minimum bid. Can you, Danny?
So
I think there was a reserve bid.
we got different prices for each building?
Yes, we got money for that one, like
Yeah, only
$80,000, but we got $1 for the other ones.
Yeah.
So with,
So you got that nightmare for $1.
Oh, thank you.
when we go
We
to,
gave them to the townships and then
Yes.
they sold them.
How's it?
Go ahead, Dave.
Right?
as far as the
That's what I wanted.
central office, it would be better if it was up here in this area. Then that leaves west. My guess is that we'll probably just tear it down would be the optimum. If we're going to turn that area into a sports area, there's probably enough room across for a softball field. We know there's room for a baseball field where the football field is, if the football field gets moved to the high school, and if they decide they want to keep the football area there, we will have some more parking, and then we can do a baseball field and softball fields up here.
Do we need more baseball fields?
Well, what it does is, we don't have to deal with the city. And we have locker rooms and facilities up here that,
Like practice area or what?
Well,
and you can have practice, you could have, I mean, technically, you have a varsity baseball, you have a JV baseball, the same thing with softball. I mean, so having 2 fields is the best. And then if you're gonna have tournaments, you want 2 fields. But if we have fields up here or at west, we can have tournaments and we don't have to deal with spending money with the city for the upkeep, for us to use it.
and somewhere the dugout club would like to put, their vision is to put a turf infield in somewhere, not at Kretz Park, just for practice and games that they wouldn't have as many rainouts in the spring. So Dean would like to go on the south side of the street here, if he could, but I think they'd go wherever. I mean, the discussion is so wide open right now, there's no decisions. But those guys would like to do a turf field, for one thing. And Sandy Robrek, I mean, the softball fields, they get kicked off all their fields in the spring, so they really don't have a home.
Right.
So I think softball and football fields are the 2 real important things in my mind.
Bobby, I want to come back to you for that.
Just to clarify on the sale of the properties of the rural schools, I was working for the board at that time, and I know Spring Valley sold for I don't want to say a profit, but we sold that for funds. And then the other 2 went back to the townships, am I correct?
Correct.
Because in my personal experience, that, like, the Pleasant View building was purchased from North Central Auctions. So the township turned around and sold it to them, and then they sold it, and they made the money, instead of us making the money, you know? But that was so back and forth for so long, I think.
Do they still use the baseball field out there? Because that was the
Yes,
big
that's
thing.
not ours.
Right, that's why we wanted to let the township own it first, so they could sort out the baseball field
I
and
think
the
that's what it was.
country.
There's a
yeah.
tree line, that's the
Yep.
property line there. And then my other thought also was that just central office needs significantly more room as well. I don't know if we could shove them into just a few offices in the middle school, because they're already cramped for space in the building that they're in. There's so much storage in the basement, and those records should be kept in a just in a better system, in a controlled environment of some sort.
Yeah.
They just have stuff shoved into every corner in that building, and every closet and crevice has you know, where do you find this? Well, you just start digging. So I would like to see those records preserved, and I just feel that central office needs more space.
Glenda, if you had to pick one elementary school to put central office in, which one would it be?
None of them. I'll answer that for you, Glenda.
So you're confident in building something on somehow, just scrape up the money, even if it's,
And I'll tell you, JD, the reason, I'm going to go back to how Jill so eloquently put it. If we go back into those elementary buildings for anything school-related, it's not fair to the taxpayers, to the voters who voted for the referendum, because we said that those buildings do not need to be used for educational experiences.
Right,
And I
but
know
that's not
central
an-
office,
that's not an
I know
educational
central office is
experience.
not an educational experience, but that's where the educational experience is birthed for our district. And I just don't think that that is conducive to our district to use those buildings.
We've already well documented, those
Absolutely.
buildings have been neglected at the
Absolutely.
fault of the district board, not pointing fingers at any one person or time
Yep.
frame. Just simply, we've neglected them, period. That's an astronomical amount to put into them. Why on earth we would even consider,
we spent $600,000 on air conditioners for the buildings not that long ago.
but that's without talking about the likely mold because of the water leaks and the roof lines
Correct.
in the infrastructure, the
And that's already been,
ground and
voters
pavement
decided.
issues. I mean, so I just strongly,
And that money was spent also, JD, without a strategic plan to see where our district was headed in the future, which, that's another subject. But Jill, I think I cut you off. You were about to say something when I turned to Bobby. Did you?
no, it's okay. I think
Okay.
it's slightly off topic.
So I think that we have a consensus of the board that selling the elementary buildings is what's on the table, with the exception of West, looking at West to do something. I'll get to you in just a moment. West Elementary will be used, is a different discussion for a different day due to the fact of the football stadium currently being there, because that's another discussion as to the future of the football field, baseball field, softball fields. So now that is part of the discussion for a future time.
So if we don't have the $1 million it takes to build a new central office, does the situation change?
Well, I'm not going to answer that yet because you jumped in front of Angie. JD, I'm sorry. I'm going to answer JD, or Angie first, and then I'll answer you.
So I agree that West should be a separate discussion. I do want to say that if it goes down the, you know, like if it's going to be torn down, that we also should be looking at, and I know this is going to sound crazy to some people, but like having an auctioneer come in and actually do like a, I don't know what the technical term is, but like a dismantling auction. Yeah, strip auction. Like I've been to those where they're going to tear down a building and they sell the windows.
Yeah.
They sell, you know, the
Sure.
trophy case, you know, the doors, all that kind of stuff, because people, and that will help, you know, the cost of tearing that.
And you're saying if we tear West down to keep for the future of that property? Okay.
Yeah, I think that is something that really should be looked at.
Can I piggyback off that? I mentioned this to Jake. I would say that could also be utilized with like replacing doors at the middle school. Those are all original to the building. So there's some opportunity, I guess is my point of just
Yep.
with the
Using-
funds within the past referendum for the building needs. Maybe we can expand on that.
Right. However, I will say that it is hard to know what to do with the, you know, the West building if we don't know what's going on with the football field.
Right.
Because that is gonna be the key to that location right there. If it's gonna move, then, you know, then we can sell the building.
Great question.
Can we have an advisory question on the next ballot? You know, for let the whole town vote, hey, move the football field or keep it there?
If we're gonna do that, we should ask for a,
I don't think,
sales tax or something then too.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
So
That
JD,
is actually what some of these people are telling. I mean, some well-to-do people say, why don't we propose a county sales tax? I said, well,
Kinda
you
like
need to
we
go to the county board meeting then and
and let them do it.
Yeah.
propose that, because, I mean, to come from a school board member, I don't know that it would fly.
JD, I'm going to let you go back to your question about the admin building.
Yeah, so I assume it's gonna cost at least $1 million. How much, it's gotta be a pretty big building. How are you, what if we don't?
For central office, JD?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would think it would be $1 million, but again, I don't know. I know it can be built it still has to be a commercial grade build, I do know that. But I think Jake was thinking around, I don't know, 300,000 or 400,000 at best.
I'm just trying to figure out how many square feet a building would have to be like that. Central office, the current one's not very small. I mean, it's not big enough, but that's what,
Depends on how efficient the layout is.
Functional space,
Yeah.
layout, yep.
Basement.
but I would sure at least like to make sure we had enough money to do it before we sold all the schools. Because if Central office, it's gotta be better to be in an elementary school than in the current building.
Well, I think
But
it
is that
was-
money well spent to put them in that?
Yeah.
Depends how much it costs to build a new one, and
Well,
if we
and
can
the-
finish the school.
And the sales that come from those, selling those buildings can also help to build, offset the cost of building a new.
And if West is torn down and the football field comes out here, or whatever other baseball field comes out here, then we lot all that area off and sell those lots.
Good.
There's money there.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of space there. I mean, across the street,
Yeah.
those buildings.
There's people chomping at the bit to buy that, to do that. I think we should just do it ourselves.
Gil, can the school district own apartments? Could we like turn them into apartments ourselves and
You
make
don't
money?
want to.
I don't,
Good idea.
I don't want to go down that road. I'm glad that Angie's here. I don't think we want to go down that
No,
road.
no.
But we could sell lots, right? Can we
Okay,
do that?
Glenda, have you,
Lots.
yes, we can sell lots. Glenda,
So I
have
do
you,
have one question. Are you interested in any kind of a community survey to at least get feedback from the community on what they feel should happen with the buildings?
I am not. In my referendum, I feel I attended quite a few of the referendum meetings with the public and was asked routinely about the buildings. My feedback was simply that I did not anticipate it would be a Mattoon situation all over again, where we held on to it, paid a lot of legal fees, all the things, that it would be the desire of the board to move forward with an action plan to be done with the building. So that was always well received. I think the voters and the feedback with passing the referendum is we are done with the elementary schools. I think that is the survey indirectly that I would be comfortable utilizing.
I do like the bidding process where we have a reserve bid and we open up bids in the meeting at a certain day and time. JD?
Or how many years away are we from actually, right, we can't sell them until the new building is done, or they think it's gonna be done, or?
Well, they'll be in it. Students will be in those buildings until it's
new building's
opened
done.
so that they can move in there, but you could already do
fall
a
of
bidding
26.
process 2 or 3 months out of where you're figuring you're gonna go into the new buildings. And then if, we have the bids, we have the people who are gonna buy it, and they have to wait a month or 2 months, they know it going in.
But I can't remember how long that is. Like, we don't think this is gonna be done for 2 years, right? Or is it gonna start this summer and be done in
Thought
a
it was
year?
26, 27.
I can't ever
We're
remember.
hoping for 26.
Fall of 26.
Yeah, fall 26.
We are hopeful that they're gonna start work this summer.
And to go back to Glenda's question posed is, would the board like a community survey sent out? And I'm seeing a lot of,
Everybody's saying no, Glenda, about the community survey,
Okay.
except for,
JD seems neutral, so I'm not sure if you want to.
I don't know, it's a lot of work and it costs $10,000, so I'm not sure.
well, this would be something we would do
No,
in-house.
we would do it ourselves. We would do some sort of a Google survey that people could access from the website and on our Facebook page.
I think just by the fact of having a survey, people are gonna say, well, I thought you weren't gonna use them.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I've heard is don't sell them for $1 from the community
Right.
people I've heard from. They're expecting them to be sold.
I have a-
I'd say we stick with that.
I have a-
Angie?
Is that, I just wanted to, I have another comment, but are we,
Sure,
is
go
that
ahead.
it's not regarding the survey?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. When we're talking about doing an auction, I just want to make sure that we also have, hire like an auctioneer, that also not just stays locally, because like investment groups from Chicago, Texas, they're gonna also want to you know, have access to this. So we want to make sure that it's not just somebody that's just going to keep it in this, you know, in this area.
So it'd be kind of an online auction?
So,
Well, it could be, but like, I'm just saying, I just don't want to, I want to make
So-
sure that it's marketed everywhere.
so I have a comment on that.
Yes.
Because I know that municipalities and school districts, that auction is run through the Wisconsin Surplus Auction. And is that jurisdicted by someone or some?
That would be something we would have to check
Yeah,
if we went
because I
down the
don't-
road.
I don't know if we
We
can
might
hold a
not have a
private
choice.
auction.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true with this.
Yeah, I don't know the formalities of it
Yeah.
in the school district. I just know that it should be out there
Yeah,
to a larger scale of potential buyers.
Again, I know that North Central Auction, is that the name of it, the folks down by
Yes.
Melody Mill?
Mhm.
Yep. They had an auction after they had purchased it, though. You know what I mean? It was their auction, and they got rid of everything in the building.
Sure, but they had
Except
already
the
owned it
junk.
first. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I don't think that is.
So that's something that we should look into.
Yeah,
okay.
and they're not getting any significant dollars on Wisconsin Surplus Auction. Things are dollars.
I also think that we should notify, like, send just the, I don't know, some kind of email or some kind of information packet to HUD through the state of Wisconsin, because there's HUD programs where investors can buy properties and turn them into residential units. So that way it's on their list as well.
The town could surely use more houses. That's,
Yep.
Every town could right now.
Okay, any other discussion about the elementary buildings or central office? Okay, we'll move on to item 7, closed session. Consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1 of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering letter C, employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. I will be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Angie. Is there any discussion of the motion on the floor? Hearing no discussion of the motion on the floor, Deanna will have a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Angie Schreiber,
Yes.
Dave Bardo,
Yes.
Bobby Braun,
Yes.
Nomatic Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Mettmiller,
Yes.
Scott Peterson,
Yes.
JD Schrader,
yes.
Catherine Solon, and Danny Pyatt.
Yes. Okay, we are now in closed session. Board